Hello and welcome to Grievers Pub. Tonight we're going to be discussing the planned departure of master modes. I know this sounds like it sounds like April Fool's Day, right? Just saying that, it's just like, wait a second, is that
The
real?
planned departure.
Departure,
Wait,
the actual
who's going
departure.
to be discussing it though?
We have a video actually of this. So we have
No,
Richard Tyre and John Crew. Who's going to be discussing it? We're going to be discussing it. We're going to be
Who's
talking about it.
we?
What are you talking about? Who are we? Yeah, I forgot about that. Guys, welcome
He's
on
the
in.
one
I'm
that just
Dead,
told me.
and this
Sorry.
is Elder. Elder, introduce yourself.
Like, I am Elder Relic. I gotta remove the underscore at G42 because Grim 42 no longer exists.
Grim 40 who?
Grim 40 who exactly?
Mm-hmm.
It was planned.
So, with that being said, tonight we're going to be discussing the planned departure of master modes and what that could mean for the flight model and FPS, or not FPS, dogfighting combat. Right? It's a lot to take in. So during the IAE show, episode 3, Jared sat down to discuss a few things with Richard Tyre and John Crew about the community's mixed responses to master modes, which, no surprise, that's going to be a thing, right?
It felt like to jump on it.
It's weird. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say it felt like it was like an admission that they haven't exactly done things right. Almost.
I think
like they know there's an issue.
Yeah,
they know there's an issue. They're no longer like, we think we've been getting good. The people who don't even care as much about the flight model cared about the flight model. But hey, I digress.
I know. It's crazy. So additionally, they address how master modes was never intended to remain a static portion of development, as they introduce what's called operator modes. We'll get more into that in a second. But Elder, I know this is going to be hard, but let's leave the tinfoil hats at the door. We're just going to try and interpret a few things about what they're talking about in the video. Not say, oh, this is what we should expect from the flight
model. We're
going
to focus on the facts.
Focus on the facts. That's going to be tough for us.
Yeah. So we had actually talked about it too. And I was just like, and I had a couple of people ask me about like what my thoughts are. And it's, and I am definitely the type of person who has to actually sit down and use it. Like, because, words, it's just words. They don't really mean a whole lot. Right. And, it's the action, like the function. That's when I'll actually know what to make of it. Although I will try,
Yeah, I know what you mean. Because it is one of those things where you were talking about this in Discord the other day where there's almost like a lack of confidence with what CIG says. It's almost like an all-time low sometimes in the last couple of years, especially.
Yeah.
And trying to believe anything that they're saying as like a fact and what they're going to deliver is always like really... I'm always on the fence. I want to, expect that they're going to follow through with it. But at the same time, what we see, like it's the whole expectations versus reality memes where you have like, this like beautiful picture on one side and then on the opposite end, it's just, a dumpster fire. Right.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I think it's reflecting in the numbers too, the lack of confidence because, well, again, what I was saying in the actual Discord was about how I don't think, I don't personally care about the paints at this point. Although I never really was that big into the paint, like I'm always function over form anyway. But I think that's starting to reflect in the community and the sales. Realistically,
we're starting to see it. Yeah. Like sales are considerably lower by what about? I think it was 28 versus 21, considerably though.
I want to look at it,
but
well, not live, but I'm just going to pull it up real quick on my side.
Pull it up. If you actually have the numbers, that'd be awesome.
Here we go. So we're looking at the difference
21%.
Oh my God, it's negative 16% for IAE, right? Is that what that 21% was?
21% is what Walk Street is saying. So maybe that's seeing more of a reflected value. Maybe that's updated.
It probably is. It's probably updated. This is from earlier this morning. But it's just overall, if you just look at where they are for like total numbers for the year of 2024, which is basically done, it's not looking good. It's not looking good. And I mean, but it's no shock because it's like what's been delivered, They would have been better off just keeping the flight model and focusing more on gameplay, other gameplay aspects that need to be added, things like that, I think.
So, do you mind if we check out that video, Elder? We can pull that up if you're ready for that.
Oh, yeah, of course.
So we have Jared over here who he's got the deer in the headlights look, he's just
He really does.
anticipating. This
His
is gonna
hair's
be.
blowing out and everything.
He knows it's gonna be a rough conversation, and he even is pretty like blatantly obvious about that. So I'm gonna bring that up, and we're gonna watch a little bit of that. At any point, Elder, just so I don't like miss anything, if you want me to pause, just like nonverbal, give me like a stop or something, whatever works. Just let me know.
Okay.
I meant it. Nobody owns eShow, and it starts right now.
Okay, we're back. Part 3, final part of our conversation about life of spaceships and Star Citizen, and it's time to address the Idris in the room here, master modes. We'd been talking about master modes for quite some time. We've been building it up as the big savior of the spaceship combat experience. It released to mixed reviews at times. Some people are...
That's putting it lightly. Mixed reviews?
Yeah, mixed review. Has it been mixed? What's considered mixed exactly? If there's one point of view out of like 100 that's like, no, it's positive, and the rest are all negative, is that considered mixed? Technically it is, right? I mean, not saying it's that much of a difference, but still, I mean, I would say mostly negative. Like if we were going by like by Steam metrics, right, it would probably be mostly negative at this point.
I gotta say, the expression especially here, just looking at John Cruz, just like I'm excited to be here.
For it. Some people are
can you rewind that? Let me see his face. Oh, there it is. There it is. Yeah, look at his face. Yeah, you're right.
Even John, like even like
excited.
Rich is looking like they know it's going to be, as soon as they say this, they know it's going to be a tough conversation. They're going to see it on Spectrum, and it's opening a can of worms. But
oh man, did we see any Spectrum posts in relation to this?
I didn't see anything. I was looking, but I didn't look hard enough to actually find.
I want to talk about what our plan is, what our vision is. Where are we going with this? What is the plan moving forward with master modes? And I'm just going to take off and leave you two here. Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Right. I think the big thing around master modes is that it never was designed to be a static piece of development. We always wanted to make sure that we were adding in new systems as they came along that then influence those design decisions.
Just a note, and I think nothing should be a static piece in development anyway.
No,
I feel like that's an obvious thing to say, especially in alpha, right? But there's a difference between something being static, or I should say, keeping something from being static, or something being totally reinvented multiple times. So like, it's like, I feel like that's like speaking lightly about the flight model to say, oh, it wasn't meant to be static. Yeah, but I'm sure like reinventing the wheel 3 or 4 times also, it probably, you've like, you're way away from static at that point.
Here's the situation that I think CIG is falling into. They made all these promises for a flight model.
Yeah.
They have so many ships within, like, I don't know. There's just too much variety. There was actually something Riker, I think you saw the post that he made on the poll about how the lack of like a proper like physics engine for flight. And then, having systems that contradict anything that actually works.
Yep.
Just seems counterintuitive. Like, CIG, what are we doing? Like, go back to like the basics, get it working, and then expand slowly from there. Like, I was hoping that with master modes we might have seen that, but it's just been, it hasn't been fun. It hasn't been an interesting, like, I don't feel like I'm gliding on the air. We can have this master modes conversation later. I know that's not the whole point, but
I do want to read. Actually, I do want to read the comment. I have it. No, they had no clue. Where are controlled surfaces? How can they make so many adjustments and plans to flight geometry without having the physics modeled down yet, and mechanics that just straight up contradict their supposed plans? All skill gap band-aids that result in a less tactile experience that even Bobs hate. So, I mean, that's a good point. All right, you're making all these adjustments. Control surfaces aren't there. The physics,
I had some notes here, and he perfectly summed up everything that I was thinking about what is currently wrong with, the current flight model. And I don't know how it's almost like they have to do like proper, problem solving for this in order to get out. I feel like they're just kind of stuck with something.
Piece of feature work that we're going to be bringing to Star Citizen that's going to have a drastic change on how we implement master modes is going to be crafting and quantum boost. So
Did you say crafting?
Yeah. I was confused at first as he said
is that
crafting and quantum
it's
boost.
never was
Okay,
designed
yeah.
to be a static piece of development. We always wanted to make sure that we were adding in new systems as they came along that then influenced those design decisions that we made at the time. And I think two big pieces of feature work that we're going to be bringing to Star Citizen that's going to have a drastic change on how we implement master modes is going to be crafting and quantum boost. So
Okay, so we'll stop there. Crafting, I kind of watched a little bit of this earlier. Do you think that's what it's missing, Elder, or does it seem like just a small piece of the puzzle of what's actually needed for like a working flight model? And it's a little bit of a loaded question there, but
Yeah, no, that's I would so okay. When watching this and then them mentioning the crafting, did you fix that for me? Is Griefus Pub,
what?
by the way, is that link correct, or do we get enough boosts? Sorry to do that in the
Yeah,
air, but
it should be good. It should be
okay.
good.
So
Feasibility.
so when he said that, it did make me it made me consider, okay, all right. So there's still components or pieces of this that's not there. So the puzzle isn't completed, right? So you can't have the full picture without every piece of the puzzle, and obviously every piece isn't there. Crafting apparently is one of them. Crafting in like engineering, I guess, or I don't know what to call it. I guess it would be crafting in general,
It,
where
I would say
they
engineering is probably good. Like, you know how, like, a good example is how Elite Dangerous has like engineering builds, and engineering is used for like specializations
yeah.
with certain ships. That's how I interpreted this, but I'm not 100% certain on that.
Well, it's so crafting is necessary to basically buff the ship in a certain way, so it's gonna be a different ship probably altogether, the way that you can change directions and all this stuff. So I guess it makes sense, but it's I don't know, it's really, that is a tough one.
That is like one of those things. I'm actually reading what Dreckles is saying here, and it's actually a note that I put together here about how it should be concerning when we should be encouraging, skill-based fights rather than statistic driven like buffs boosted by in-game items. That just seems like a bad direction.
Yeah.
Maybe like a little bit of a boost, but I don't know. I'm never a huge fan of when game mechanics replace, skill-based things in the game.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, it should be a combination, right?
A
It's
combination
like
would be good.
it makes
Yeah.
sense for it to be really both, but it can't. It shouldn't be like
It shouldn't replace it.
no, it shouldn't replace it, and it shouldn't completely just override it. Like, it shouldn't be like, oh well, my ship's way over engineered, and even though I'm terrible, I can absolutely destroy you. I guess to an extent, right? I mean, to an extent.
I get you. There's actually something that AT6 is saying here. Crafting requires its own skills and will force people to work with each other.
Yeah.
That is one part that I actually do appreciate about the idea of like crafting actually coming into play.
Same.
Is how it like integrates, like a
Skills
proper
lane.
like player driven economy, and it encourages like strong player agency as well, right? That's just where I would stand on that.
Yeah, I mean, so it's funny. He says skill is lame. That's hilarious. But yeah, I agree. I agree. I like, honestly, like, I like the idea that they're building things in a way where you can't just go out and be a lone gunner and have no need for anyone else anywhere else. Like that, if this game, I mean, obviously they're building it for like a numbers like war type, scenarios and all this.
Designing like an
And
MMO.
yeah. And if you want your org to be powerful, like, you got to be able to work with other people and get those things together. So, I mean, I do like that. I just don't want it to be like, oh, I'm just absolutely better than you, even though I'm terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I get you there. We can play this. I'm sorry, I got stuck on
right
a little bit of a
now
rant there.
with master modes itself, we have obviously the two master modes, SCM and NAV. A big thing is that we're going to actually be demoting or converting those modes from master modes to operator modes. What that inherently means is that we're still going to have a mode that is dedicated to fighting and having combat. There is going to be a mode that's dedicated to your quantum, but we're going to be removing some of the fail-safes, restrictions, yes,
Restrictions,
that had.
okay. What are they removing though? So right now, what do we have for restrictions? We have a very restricted, it's either nav or SCM modes, right? And that's maybe what they're referring to.
Um,
Keep listening.
I don't know. Again, it's confusing. Can you rewind it? I want him to repeat that again so I can try to
Yeah, one
process
sec.
it better.
Let me fix that.
When you some of these that we're still going to have those SCM and nav. With master modes itself, we have obviously the two master modes, SCM and nav. A big thing is that we're going to actually be demoting or converting those modes from master modes to operator modes. What that inherently means is that we're still going to have a mode
Hold
that
on,
is
so-
dedicated to fight.
Are
Yeah.
they saying that it's no longer going to be called master modes at all? Am I understanding that correctly?
There's not going to be any modes at all. Is that what you're saying?
No, that it's no longer master modes, right? Because right now it's master modes. Is it no longer going to be gray hairs popping up with these things?
Pretty much. They
basically.
I think Bishop actually made it. He pointed out like best the verbiage in that is deliberately unclear because it sounds like the systems are still in development. Operator modes is what they're proposing, but we don't know what that looks like. It's just a lot of discussion right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it will now be called operator modes,
Operator modes.
which is fine because honestly, I personally always felt that master modes was corny as hell. I never liked the concept of it being called master modes. Like it's
Here's
just
the thing: like this feels like the same pitch that they were trying to send with master modes when they first announced it and started discussing it. You know, it feels like we're getting led down the same thing. Where now we're waiting on what crafting systems to be implemented to see what operator modes looks like. So we got that waiting game again. So
yeah,
they can take their time. You know what I'm saying? We got another like progress gate, more or less.
2 years. It's got to be 2
2 years.
years.
It's always 2 years. Always 2 years.
Yeah. So 2026 is supposed to be Squadron 42. I bet you they know they have to deliver at this point. I think because they're really just pushing their
They're on
luck
a
at this
deadline.
point. They really
Yeah.
are. And I'm willing to bet that within the next, I'd say 365 days, we'll start seeing some form of operator modes probably. Now, I think you Rancep, formerly known as, says, I think you will still have to switch to a mode to activate your QT, but it's not going to be nav like we know it now. Well, he explains it a little bit too. So Master Modes
You wanna
has
keep
a
watching?
bad rep. Yeah, that's why they changed the name. Yeah, go ahead and play it.
Let's do
Fighting
it.
and having combat. There is going to be a mode that's dedicated to your quantum, but we're going to be removing some of the fail-safe restrictions, yes,
Fail-safe
that had
restrictions that we're
when you're
just talking
switching
about.
between these modes.
Oh, that's
We're
right.
going to be
Here comes-
moving towards one
Yeah.
That's what we were talking about there.
Yeah.
cohesive speed
Yeah.
between all operator modes. That speed is going to be
It's actually a
more
really good question
akin
right here.
to what you'd imagine SCM speeds are now. But there's two big, huge caveats that come into that. First off is crafting. So crafting will allow you to upgrade your ship and to tier 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you want to have combat at higher speeds, if you have a tier 5 ship and you have the best thrusters and you've specialized, you've bought an interceptor ship, that will be more applicable to those types of ships. So that gives people options to choose, like, I want to have this type of gameplay versus this type of gameplay. Having that cohesive, unified speed, the one thing that we really need to address is this kind of like nav flight.
Oh, Elder, I'm sorry to say this. Can you set the custom URL link when you get a chance?
Oh, it needs
I
to be
can't do it from my
reset.
end.
Oh.
Yeah, it needs to be reset.
Oh,
It does that
I'm
now.
so sorry.
It sits in this very
No, it's all
odd position in terms of you get out of an LZ and you're flying up to the space station, in atmosphere, your speed is really closer to SCM speeds anyway. You're not flying at 1,000 meters a second. You can pick up start a bounty hunter mission now, be sent to another planet, and then the closest quantum point to that POI might be 500 kilometers away. And that means that, as we add more dense POIs, that's going to only exacerbate this situation because we can't have quantum markers everywhere. And when we
So that sounds like we're not going to have like hard positions, like a locked-in static position for, like, say, you
No,
want to go to
so
Brios.
that
have to
I've
jump
been
somewhere
looking forward
close, right?
to. That's
I'm okay with that.
looking. Yeah, I like it because I think what's the name of the game now? Elite Dangerous did it right with what they call Super Cruise. It sounds like it's likened to that. It's a super cruise mode. So instead of everyone being like jump here, then jump here and jump here, it's you have this like what is it called again? It's like super boost or something. So basically it's going to be something like that. Quantum boost. Yeah. So basically you're going to be traveling at a certain rate of speed that people can like chase you down with. I feel like I like that. I like that idea. Like I like the idea of maybe being able to chase somebody and pull them out of
I would like to see an interdiction system. I know we're avoiding theory crafting, but Elite does their interdiction like super well. Where it's like very skill based and you have to actually track down the player, and it's just not just holding down proximity.
I agree.
Something along those lines would be really fucking cool.
It's a mixture of skill and then also like how engineered it is, right? That I like that, and it's a fight for somebody to try to pull you out of the with quantum addiction or whatever the hell you call it in that super cruising addiction, and you're fighting with that other person to try to either stay in super cruise or the other person is fighting to take you out of it. Like I like that. That's really cool.
Do you think we're going to have that same Bob argument about how I don't have the time to get my ship up to tier 5? There's no way I can stand a chance. Why are we implementing these systems?
Probably.
Do you think that's going to be a new argument?
That's always going to be an argument, I think. It's always going to be something like, you need
actually, with all this like being said, though, does it feel like CIG is kind of backpedaling a little bit on progress with the flight model? Like we're almost starting over, it feels, right?
Kind of, yeah. I think what they're trying to do is backpedal without calling it backpedaling. Honestly, right? They're saying, okay, this is our ego is too big to admit that this was a bad idea. So let's call it operator modes and add a component to the master modes, and it's no longer master.
It wasn't static. It was never the plan. We were going to always switch it to something else.
Yeah, basically.
Which I'm kind of curious if that actually was the plan, but I don't know. I don't keep close track to that. So maybe it does feel like rebranding and saving face.
Yeah,
so it's hard to say.
Dank Treckles was saying too. We're branded to try to save face. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So I can play the skin. By the way, I'm sorry. Were you able to get that custom link? Yes, you were.
It's all set.
Doing that. We start to add more space exploration and more missions towards the different guilds that we're operating on, where you're having to go into deep space and go into these large distances. You don't want to be in a position where that's taking such a huge amount of time. We want you to be spending more time doing the mission than flying there. This is where Quantum Boost comes in. Now, the way that Quantum Boost works is it connects your flight speeds to your quantum travel. So quantum travel is for flying millions of kilometers away when you have a specific quantum marker that you're flying towards. And then you've got your flight speeds, which should be, say sub 20 kilometers, where you're flying around, exploring on the planet, or fighting at a POI, or doing a bounty hunting. But anywhere above that, we want to kind of accelerate that.
I'm sorry. The question is, how far along is Squadron 42 if we are changing the flight model? It's always 2 years. Here's your answer.
Process of that navigation. And Quantum Boost goes all the way up to your top speed of SCM, or top speed of our current nav mode, all the way up to essentially a tenth of quantum travel speed.
Hold on, rewind that.
Spectrum of speed.
Rewind that. Go back about 30 seconds.
That was
essentially a 10 current nav mode, all the way up to essentially kind of accelerate that process of that navigation. Right. And Quantum Boost goes all the way up to your top speed of SCM, or top speed of our current nav mode, all the way up to essentially a tenth of quantum travel speed. You have this spectrum of speed.
What's confusing me is he says all the way up twice. So it goes all the way up to nav and then all the way up to a tenth of quantum travel. So does he actually mean that it's anywhere from nav to quantum travel speeds? Is that what he meant? You know what I mean? I don't know. For me, that's a little bit confusing.
Again, there's a lot that needs to be unpackaged here. And I'm still kind of waiting for CIG to put together like a written statement on all this, because it'll be a little bit easier, I feel, to kind of digest it.
Yeah.
And when he's talking about SEM, is he talking about SEM like standard or boosted? What are we referring to here?
He meant to say nav mode. He said SEM first, and he meant nav mode. So I think what he's saying is that when you're in SEM mode, the quantum boost can be used in SEM mode, and you'll be able to utilize it where it's bringing you anywhere from nav top speed nav mode to 1/10 of quantum. Let's see if anyone in the chat has something too.
So
you guys
it
trying to
does-
figure out what these dudes that we're talking about with the flight model changes? Good, because I was confused. Okay, so that didn't help.
it is kind of it is kind of
Understandable.
sounding like they're trying to create less of a drastic, like restricted, like flight model. Like where I'm in like SEM, I'm not able to do certain things I'm not able to do in like say nav. Maybe it's going to be fixed on power distribution. I don't know. We can keep watching this and we'll find out.
I do
It's
want to
kinda
say
curious.
this. It does sound like they're trying to do that, and I do want to say this. One of the problems that I had mentioned, in fact, I was talking about when we had Virgil on too, was how when you're out of boost, or if you're in a team fight in general, even if
You're
you
dead
have
in
boost,
water.
you're basically dead in the water when you become the
Yeah.
focus. And there needs to be some flexibility where you can get out of that. And I think quantum boost is going to be that option where they're gonna. I know also they mentioned about how your weapons will stay on when you do use quantum boost during SEM mode. So we'll listen to that, but I think it's gonna be a solution for that. So
Okay.
let's.
I'm curious about quantum dampening too. I don't think they addressed anything like that in the show, but I know there was some mentioning of being able to use certain countermeasures in weapons while in nav mode, or like the operator, like nav mode, whatever it is. Again, a
that
lot to
allow you
unpackage
to
and kind of
navigate the
confusing
large
right off
spaces
the
in
bat.
our game, but also then still stay true to some of the intentions that we delivered with master modes.
Master modes we talked a lot about, and the combat side broadly staying the same. The nav side that was the limiting factor, we often said like it's too fast, but not fast enough. The amount of
Okay, so he's saying that SEM is going to stay pretty much as is, but nav is what's going to function differently. That's what I'm hearing there too, correct?
Think so. Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
times we watch new players go into nav, go towards a station, and then we'd be sat there going, they've not stopped in time. So quantum boost was always supposed to be that bridge gap, and without it,
him saying that
that's what we call a skill issue, friend.
Yeah, that's not an issue for anyone that knows how to fly. We're not accidentally running into the station because we didn't stop in time, especially when you come out of nav mode and it almost immediately brings you down to SEM. So that's just, I don't know if that's a statement from like gaming
Maybe they should
ignorance
tell
or
friends, hey, you know what? Do not point directly at the station at fucking Mock Jesus. You are gonna die. You know, it is just simple, you know.
Make sure your vector is heading
sense.
not directly into the station, right? Like you could literally have it so it goes in between like spaces that are still dead space, just
in
in
the previous
case.
flight model, you know, that's actually one thing I do miss about the previous flight model is when you would hear a random mass explosion and you'd be wondering who ran into the station this time, you know,
Yeah,
or like
that's great.
you would hear it and then someone would say, oh man, what? This game sucks. And it's just like, what happened? He's like, I ran into this station and just, you know, some random stuff, right?
I will say this though. The moment you shoot at somebody in nav mode, right? When they're near a station, the panic is worse because now it's just like, oh shit, they're trying to get to the station as fast as possible because they got no shields and they just boom, right into it. It's hilarious.
Right into it. It's amazing. All right. I'll get back to this.
Sort of nav mode that didn't quite do what we wanted. And it also, because it's quantum and it's creating a bubble around your ship, allows us less friction in the traversal because you go in quantum, you come out quantum, you don't have to apply all this G-force.
The rules of physics
are different because you're not physically hurtling at that speed. You're wrapping a bubble of time and space around yourself. So you come out, you can stop dead. You're not having that expanse moment where you're all being ripped apart from the G-force.
I do like that he mentions this. I like that he mentions this. This is interesting.
It is interesting. I'm a bit concerned about it because, like, one thing I've hated about the current mechanic is that merging isn't a skill, right?
No.
And with this, it sounds like it would be even less of a skill, and it's already been dumbed down. But now there's no G-force at all, so you come out of quantum boost to immediate stop on your target.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's the concern.
The one thing that I'm getting out of this is they're still trying to make it more accessible to players, especially new players, right? They want it to be something that you can jump into and not have to learn the flight model from scratch like the previous one, which to some degree I kind of agree they should do that, but why not just create like tutorial systems at that point too? You know, there's no tutorial for the verse. This is actually something Scarred Citizen was just mentioning, so I do agree with that. There's no flight tutorial. Like, why aren't we doing that?
I like that there's none.
So you see that space station coming towards
you,
you stop.
That's just me.
The one limitation that we are.
So wait a minute, hold on. So they are making it easier. So he. Give me a second, please. Let me just digest this.
It's fine. It's
and
fine.
then how many more grays just popped up? Because he just brought up a concern that basically is a concern for a brand new friggin' player, right?
I was gonna say if it's up
so
here,
you're only
probably not much.
You're only brand new for so long, though. So the concern is that people are coming out of nav mode and slamming into stations. So our solution, we got to solve this problem that very few actually have in comparison to how many are playing, I would think. All right, because I don't see it often that people are just running into stations. Like, this isn't happening.
What it's going to develop instead is lazy flight habits.
So, so now the solution is that there's a space-time warp bubble around your ship, and when you come out of quantum boost, you stop immediately, so you won't run into stations anymore. So that's what they're trying to solve? Oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
I can't. All right, go ahead.
They're focusing on the things that actually matter here, okay?
I'm getting a headache here.
I know. I can tell you're having like a little bit of a rant here too, so. Oops, 1 second.
You can't have your quantum drive enabled and also your shields.
You don't explode.
And ultimately, that's a binary decision. Operator modes will start off as the default configuration that we've set in terms of the control.
Okay, actually, Ransup says they're essentially getting rid of that whole speed range between the highest SEM we have now and the highest nav speeds now, outside of cube boosting. Okay, interesting. Thanks for the follow, Vertigo.
Roles in terms of the MFDs and what you're casting onto your HUD. In terms of your resource network presets. But that doesn't stop you from then going in and customizing it. We're providing an initial, hey, this is what we think is a good default setting. But then it's up to the players then to customize what they want on their cast, what they want on the MFDs, and then they have options to them. And they shouldn't have this constant switching modes to gain access to certain operator modes. You know, we're removing some of that friction.
And through all of this, because that binary distinction is between modes, you have to be in this mode or this mode, and there's all these very strict rules between those modes. You keep your weapons through all this. So this now becomes a more tactical decision in combat. But if you need that sudden burst of speed, either to get away from something or to catch up to something, you make the choice. You sacrifice your shields, certainly, but you can still bring your weapons to bear and stuff, get there. And the second you're out.
And ultimately, that is underpinned by your resource network engineering. So if you're on a single-seater ship,
this is what doesn't make sense to me.
But also if you're
okay. I don't know what the hell. I'm not to be like super critical, but I don't know what the hell.
Be critical. Be critical.
All right. So good. So let me make sure I understand this. Okay. So there's no longer master modes. There's no longer nav mode. There's a quantum boost mode that puts you into a bubble of protection from G-forces, where you can still shoot outside of that wrap around of gravity and time space, so you can shoot through it, but you don't keep your shields because that's their way of balancing it, where now if you want to go super fast, you lose your shields and you're like, the whole thing is just getting very weird to me. And it feels like they're just trying too hard, personally.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Like, and not only that, but like one of the things they had mentioned too, just to throw it out there, is that one of the reasons why they also wanted to slow down the speeds, on top of the fact that they wanted the battles to be closer together, because I'm not saying they didn't want that, was also because the servers could not track you at such fast speeds.
No, they couldn't.
So how are the servers going to track you if you're going 1/10 of the quantum speed? Like if you're flying in super fast.
These are a lot of questions that I have like in my head too. We're running on 100 player servers. After Pyro, we're looking at 380.
I foresee, I don't know, 380. I think I foresee.
Like, what are we actually solving?
Quantum boost mode fighting. People are just gonna bypass shields altogether and be shooting at each other, going freaking mock Jesus. Just saying. We'll fix it all.
We have to wait on server meshing. We have to wait on crafting. It does feel like we're just playing placeholder simulator some days. You know, that's more or less what I'm trying to get at.
Well, I mean, we are realistically, we are.
Realistically, we are. But you know, hopefully, CIG can get their shit together and figure that out.
So if you're on
I'm gonna
a
get back into
single-seater
this.
ship, that's obviously at the pilot's behest. But also if you're on a larger multi-crew ship, you can then use the engineering terminal to be able to have those presets available to you.
And through the use of crafting to improve your components and, of course, your presets and quantum boost, rather, you can get up to speeds that are approaching the current nav speed and stuff like that. So we're not taking that speed away. We're defaulting everything to a speed that is closer to today's SCM.
Hold on.
And then giving the player choices.
Press rewind, 4 times. I want to hear him say that again.
Crafting to improve your components and, of course, your presets and quantum boost, rather. You can get up to speeds that are approaching the current nav speed and stuff like that. So we're not taking that speed away. We're defaulting everything to a speed that is closer to today's SCM. And then giving the player choices in how and when they can get up to that speed without completely disabling everything.
I mean, ultimately, it allows us to keep the kind of the default.
Okay.
We're trying to move towards a...
Did that help?
It's a bit confusing. I from what I'm getting, it doesn't make any damn sense. One guy's saying 1/10 of quantum mode, and now he's saying that you keep it's like closer to SCM but up to nav. It sounds like what they're saying is that basically you'll be able to fight at the same speeds we used to. I don't understand.
Without shields, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing is confusing to me. Maybe I'm just not intelligent. Anyone in chat understand what's going on here?
I've been looking at this too, and I'm trying to. Yeah, I don't know.
By the way, if anybody,
I was just
going to throw it out there. If anyone's interested in jumping in and discussing this with us, there's a waiting room in the Discord. If you jump into the waiting room, we'll see that you want to jump in as a caller. Okay.
And it gets harder. So we want the default to be open and compatible to lots of players. But then as you start to specialize and it becomes hard to master and you start to work in the different avenues of different professions that you like, that's where you can start to customize your ship. And I think there's a key takeaway or a key point to also make is that if you don't want to craft, if you don't want to go down that route because you just want to shoot ships and be a combat pilot, or you just want to be a miner or a space trucker, there's nothing wrong with that. You can still gain access to this because player trading is going to be something that allows players to gain access to these components and shit.
Yeah, that's one thing that like Rich has been pushing that I really agree with is the dependency of different portions of the player base and really focusing on that player-driven economy. Because as soon as we have that, we have a living ecosystem, which I think is very important.
I think it is very important. And what it does is it creates like a need. You know what I mean? There's value that actually turns, like, it brings value to playing the game, why you play the game, why you do things you do. Like, there needs to be value. Right now there's no value. I think this is a good solution, is doing things like this. Like, it's necessary, and I like it. Yeah.
So there's some things that I want to say that I don't have a lot of confidence in CIG, but there's members on the team like Rich that I think seem competent. They're trying what they can to push it in the direction that it needs to be.
Yeah.
Even if it doesn't make sense right now, maybe the vision of like what CIG is trying to promote here will actually come into play. When we're going to see that, I don't know.
Yeah.
That's more or less
ships without having to go through some of the grind that they have. And obviously they're now reaping the benefits of that. But you have lots of choice.
Obviously, there isn't one prototypical Star Citizen player. Developing a system that's going to please everybody is an impossible task. We can only work towards our goals and our vision for what we want this to be and hope it applies to as many people as possible. What I like about this is that you can never go wrong with putting the choice in the player's hands. At any given situation, when you're going to want your speed, when you're going to want
putting choice in the player's hands. Can we do that with moderation, CIG? taking notes.
Yeah.
Your shields. You'll always have your weapons from now on. So just put those choices in the player's hands and let them and let them decide for themselves. It's one of those things unique about Star Citizen is that we get to develop this, and then we don't have to wonder. We can put it into players' hands and get that feedback immediately, and then take it in. I think there's a real chance for this to be the spaceship experience we've been working towards this whole time.
I think the big thing to take away from all the things that we've discussed is that none of these things are designed or implemented in isolation. And where we're trying to go is like, when we talk about
like it is sometimes
combat that is, say, not as fast as it was in previous updates, hopefully people understand we're doing that not just because we don't like fast combat. It's because we want to give
What's up?
I'm just laughing. He said Jared is such a shit eater. Why? I don't
players options to gain fast combat or gain slower combat, depending on what choices they make with crafting or their purchases. Then it's on a scenario where, capital warfare is, you need to be able to use precision targeting, and that's why we developed that feature so that you can have good subcomponent targeting. And I think when you start to see some of this bigger picture come together, and you start to see all of these individual pieces connect, you might not agree with it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But ultimately, that's what we're trying to do. That's how we're trying to connect all these pieces together to create this experience that ultimately Chris is the one that is setting that vision, and we're trying to execute on that vision for Chris. And that is what we're trying to work towards, and hopefully people can start to...
He's like passing the buck right on the Chris's fault. I feel like that's what he just did. It's
I'm reading. I'm sorry. Bishop says sending senior management out to sit in front of the camera like that carries little whiff of panic.
Good point.
See some of these pieces connect
or maybe
together,
they're just trying to give more clarity. It could be either. I don't know. I think that's their attempt of trying to do that, but
they enjoy it ultimately at the end of the day.
So Rich,
just
John,
give us
thank you so
written
much
statement.
for taking the time to
I
share.
think that's basically it.
Yeah.
So, I do want to throw out there that why are you so grainy in this one?
Why am I suddenly
fixed,
so blurry?
fixed. There we
Just
go.
give it a second.
Yeah. So I gotta say, what is it called? Precision mode. By the way, just because I heard him mention precision mode, I actually was using it the other day to try to knock the engines off an Aegis, which it was pretty useful. It was pretty cool. Like it wasn't stupid.
What were you flying?
But I was in a Gladius, right? And the one thing I noticed that was a problem with precision mode is while I was in it, I had no idea what was going on around me. And then apparently, who was it? It was some no-name in Avenger 1 and came and killed me while I was doing that. I'm over here. I was bobbing the hell out of that Idris, and I got I got destroyed by Avenger 1. Position. I was like, damn it.
You just like rage quit, right?
But no, yeah, it's precision. Why precision when sub-targeting works and you don't need zoom in. I don't know. I was messing with it because I never used it before. I never had a reason to. They make weird redundancies. Yeah, I agree though. You're right.
The old way to like rotate and sub-target, I would use that all the time. If I wanted to, blast off the engine of a Cuddy and watch it spin to its death, that's what I would do.
Well, yeah, using lag pip, or the other thing too is that have they? So I know that sub-targeting became a thing where you had to scan a ship and then you could sub-target, which is kind of ridiculous. Did they remove that? Do we know? Like, are you able to sub-target now without having to scan first?
You're still able to. I think you have to use the scan. No, you have to. Wait, you don't have to anymore?
Yeah. Okay.
Good to know.
So I haven't updated according to that. You know what I mean? That's another reason why I was doing that. I was using lag pip at first, and I was like,
just so used to the old systems,
easier.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, it was pretty cool. I guess it just depends on the style of gameplay. We do have two people in waiting room. Were you going to say that?
Two callers. One thing that I was going to say, looking back, does it seem like Yogi Clat wasn't provided with sufficient amount of resources and priority for Master Modes testing? It felt like last fall when we initially saw like Master Modes, we saw tests like every, like few weeks, they would update the flight model, give us something new. I wish we had that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There was a certain period of time where they were actually updating things actively. Right. Yeah, and then it just, then it just stopped. Right.
Which
and
is
then
why I don't want to just like
straight up
throw Yogi under the bus because of this, because
No,
I
it's
think
not
he's
his
only
fault.
given
I
so
think it's
many
just
resources.
exactly. I don't think it's his fault at all. Honestly, I don't think you can blame. You probably can only blame whoever's on top saying we need resources here and put this person here and there. And like, is that because of Chris? I don't know. I don't know.
That makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Okay. I did see that Scart was in here first, so we're going to take live callers. Give me 1 second. Welcome in Scart. How you doing tonight?
Good, good. How are you guys?
Pretty good. Did you have a question?
Well, Elder had said a few times that he was confused. Actually, it sounds like everybody's confused, but
I think so, yeah.
what my
Mhm.
takeaway is from this is that when they change this, if they change this, because who knows what happens, it sounds to me like you will have SCM speed, right? What we have now. When you change to nav mode, unless you have crafted or bought anything to enhance that speed, your nav mode will still be the same as SCM speed.
Mhm.
Your quantum boost is what's going to give you that ability to go from the top end of nav mode speed as we have now to 1/10 quantum drive or quantum boost.
And does it seem like when we get tier 1 through 5, we're going to have more capabilities with the ships, and that's the intent? Like better
Correct.
performance with the ships?
Correct. That's what I'm understanding it as. I don't know if you guys
That's
understand it as something different.
kind of what I was expecting, but I wasn't sure. You know how we're talking about like Elite with their engineering systems and how you can have like a really well engineered ship intended for a specific role. That's kind of what I perceive from it, but again, that's just what I heard.
It sounds like that's kind of what they're going for. And I agree with Elder as well that quantum boost is going to be a lot like using Super Cruise and the frame shift drive. That's what it really, really sounds like it's going to be.
Which
Yeah.
I like that. I definitely like that aspect of it. If that's what it is. Now again, we're going off very little actual information and who knows how they'll actually implement it. But if it's anything like that, I would like it. Like I like that function in it. I think it complements the game of one of the things about Star Citizen that I like is that it feels very free in what you can do, right? So when you're in quantum mode, you can like stand up and walk around your ship or whatever, right? So I feel like that quantum boost mode kind of gives you like that feeling of freedom of like things you can do in the game where you don't feel restricted to, oh, I'm going to OM1, then OM3. You know what I mean? Like now it's this kind of like free movement, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do like that. But I mean, really, guys, to be 100% honest, I haven't actually sat down and played Star Citizen since like 3 weeks after Master Modes was implemented. I've
So
hopped
can
in
we
a couple of times.
Yeah, can we kick him out of here? He's obviously not a true supporter. No, I'm just kidding.
Um, I truly, there's a lot of people that think I hate Star Citizen, and that's not the case. I absolutely love Star Citizen to death, and I've said a bunch of times that I want this game to be what other space games are compared to 20, 25, 30 years down the line, like we do with other games.
Yeah.
And, I'm just not exactly thrilled where it's at right now.
Yeah, I
That's
get
all.
it. I
And
totally understand that.
honestly, I think it is healthy to like take breaks from something like that, because if you are like passionate about it, seeing it, in the state that it's at
Yeah.
isn't
So
like it's bad for morale. That's more or less what I would say about the community as a whole.
I got two suggestions
Yeah.
to make sure, right? So if you want to be able to take those breaks, make sure you're not an org leader and make sure you don't start a damn podcast on the game.
Right. So I have a couple of questions, or I have one question for you guys, and then I'll get out of the way so the next guy can talk.
Yeah, you're fine. What's up?
Do you guys really, really enjoy Master Modes as it is right now? Because to me, I felt like the Legacy Flight model allowed for a lot larger of a skill ceiling, and you have to actually think about what you're doing, like throttle control, rolling, and using thrusters, or up and down thrusters, things like that.
I'll let you answer that first because I can go off
You want
on
me
a
to?
tangent. Yeah.
I'm mixed. I'm really mixed on it, because there are some things that Master Modes does solve by bringing the fights closer together, but it also creates new problems. With
Okay.
as soon as you're out of boost, there's no way you can, like Elder said, you're just dead in the water. it needs more. I want more agility as a light fighter. I want roles of certain specific ships to be better defined. Whether it be a heavy fighter, a light fighter, medium, freight, doesn't matter. They should all have like their own specific, needs kind of catered to. I feel otherwise they're just going to be creating like a new, like old flight model. I love that it had a skill gap. I love that it actually had a skill ceiling and you actually had something to strive for. But it also was broken as hell. It created like a weird meta for like light fighter in the first place, and that's not healthy for like an entire like game when only players are using one sort of ship down the line.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's no different than like when Master Modes dropped and we just saw the F7A. So that's where I'm at.
Oh yeah.
They need to create like a balanced. If they could have balanced PvP before anything else, I'll take that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So where should I start here? So no. I mean
3 hours later.
Overall, yeah, 3 hours later. I mean, overall, no, I don't. I think Master Modes. I think it's like leaving a bad taste in everyone's mouth, right? There are some things that it was good for, I think. But no, overall, okay. So I was actually talking about this earlier today. I jumped on earlier today and I was fighting with a couple of guys in York. And I mean, a lot of us fell away from it for some time. I've stayed active in it, but not out of passion anymore, right? And one of the things that we were talking about is that it basically removed individual skill expression and it's more broad, right? So now it's like you see skill expression according to like as a whole an org as opposed to individual styles. And my best example of that is that when I used to fight somebody who was on an alt, after fighting them once or twice, I would say, oh, that's, I don't know, Schwang. That's whoever. You know what I mean? That's this person. That's Virgil. You know what I mean? Like I was able to specifically know who it was I was fighting according to how they were fighting as an individual. You don't really see that anymore. Now it's more like when I fight somebody, I could tell if they're Shadow Moses or not. You know what I mean? I could tell if they're like ramming department, but it's less individual. So I agree. Like it removed that individual like flight style. It removed the ability to have like the individual skill expression, and it really made things a lot more stiff. Now I'm talking more of a light fighter type meta scenario. Now, I will say what I do like is that, and I don't think they needed master modes to do this though. That's the thing. I think this is just, it comes hand in hand. But so master modes, when master modes came out, I'll say this, what it did was it removed the whole light fighter meta, and it brought other ships into the mix. Now, at first, it was light fighters just became useless. They're not useless anymore, right? And as of right now, you can actually use light fighters effectively in a team, right? But
it's fun.
But so that I agreed with. I didn't think it was right ever that you could spin the win basically in a Gladius for long enough against a freaking hammerhead and eventually win the fight because they just can't hit you. Like that was stupid. Right? It doesn't make any sense. It's like taking a motorboat and destroying a battleship with time. You know what I mean? Like by shooting an AK-47 at the hull. Like I just don't see that happening. You see what I'm saying? So like I like that now there's more roles, but like overall they didn't have to like nerf the flight model to the ground. Now on top of that, you don't have power management. Power management is now literally you just set it and then you leave it. Right? There were a lot of fights that you would win. One guy or the other would win because of their ability to effectively use their power management during the fight. Like I don't like that they just completely removed that whole aspect of it. So overall, no, not a huge fan of master modes. But as far as for group play, I think master modes is great. Like large ship, large scale play, like that's great. I like the idea of slowing down the flight model, but they could have did that using the previous flight model and literally limiting the speeds. One more thing
you said the other day.
Go ahead.
Oh, never mind. This is a dumb joke, so go ahead and finish your
I was gonna say one more thing. I see that somebody is saying bring SEM up to 470 to 500 MS and boost up to 650, 700. Not even necessary. I have like a million fights that I recorded, and all the best fights I have literally take place between
Slow
about
speeds.
250 to 500. 500 being max. There was a fluctuation right now with SEM and then top boosted up to like 500 being this like limiting force factor that pulls you back to SEM makes it too restrictive to have that real good fluctuation. And I think that if you left decoupled all the way up to like 500 ms, where yes, you got to boost to go over SEM, but you can boost past SEM and stay that speed and that vector or velocity. I think that would make it feel a little more free, in my personal opinion. I think it's too restrictive, and that's part of the problem. I don't think you necessarily need such a high SEM or MS, excuse me, meters per second. It's just, it's like you hit 250 and you're like hitting this very restrictive wall where now it's sucking you back to 250 if you try to go over it. Like, it's just way too restrictive. I think that's it. Yeah. That's about it.
Last 2 points and then I'm out of here. I agree with you. I think power management, the power triangle, learning how to manage that. I've seen many fights go one way or the other because somebody didn't know what they were doing or hit it at the wrong time. So I really wish that was back. And then the last thing I wanted to say is, with the legacy flight model, I did a lot of flying with Jonathan Winters and his crew. And even with the ability in a Gladius to hit, what was it, 1,000, 1,100 meters a second, he was very big on teaching knife fighting. So if you wanted to get, you would use speed to get close, but once you close the distance, it was all about maintaining that speed. And a lot of the times the fights would generally stay around I'd say 300 to 400. They don't really go too much faster than that, because then you, as we know, you start jousting and things get out of control. But I think that's a big thing too with newer players, is just throttle control.
So that to jump on that too, throttle control, and then also merging was a skill. And I do agree. Again, I do agree with the MS coming down way lower than it was, because 1,200. Virgil was on here saying how it's like nobody actually knew who won the fight. You would just get way too spread out. Yeah, it
Remember
was just
JT.
Yeah, it was too
like
much.
Fight about the station, and then you're like 75, 100 kilometers because people were just boosting away the entire time. That's all.
Yeah, and like there was rarely anyone dying, and it was, so that was a bit much. I don't want it to go back to that either. But they could have literally just like, they could have taken the same flight model, dropped it down to 500 to 600 at most, and we would have kept all our skill expression ability without it being like super restrictive. Because right now this SEM to nav mode, or SEM to full boost in SEM, to me it just doesn't feel right. And then on top of that, all the problems they set out to solve as far as when it came to like back strafing and 1v1 type fights and stuff like that, they didn't solve, and it made it worse in my opinion. Kiting is worse, and basically what it did was it brought all the keyboard, mouse, or stick and mouse players up on a pedestal now, because they can literally focus on just aiming.
Yeah. I agree. I've said for a very long time, cut back strafing by 1/3 to 2/3, and you'll solve a lot of problems that way very quickly. But it is what it is. Guys, thank you so much for having me on. Keep doing what you guys are doing. I try to tune in every night when I'm not, or every Sunday night I'm not at work. So thank you guys.
Yeah, thanks for
stopping
coming
by.
in.
Nice having you here.
Thank you.
Then I got Vladdy. He might be kind of goofy, but let's see what he
That's
has to
fine
say.
with me. Yeah, bring him in. He's like me.
Hey, what's up, Vlad? How you doing? Good to see you.
Oh, you dragged me in. Is your refrigerator running?
And we'll see him later.
I'll take
I'll
it.
catch you later, bud.
Wait, is that it? Is he messing with us?
He's probably messing with us. Hang on. Okay, did you actually have a question though? Nope.
He left.
Yeah, I told you. He's a buddy.
I'll take it. Yeah, I'm good with it. We could use a few more of those, I think.
So a few takebacks from tonight.
Is your refrigerator running? Better go catch it.
Better go catch it. So question that I have for you, we're gonna end on this thought is, do you think the removal of a restrictive flight model is going to be enough of a step in the right direction for Star Citizen, or do we need more? Another loaded question will be here for another
hold
hour.
on. Yeah, wait, hold on. I'm so sorry, man.
Let me type it out.
No, repeat it. Just repeat it. I know you got it typed out. I could just look in the thing. You sent it to me, didn't you?
Will the removal of a restricted flight model be a step in the right direction for Star Citizen?
Okay, so let me add a question to that first.
Yes.
Are you saying that because what they're doing seems like they're trying to remove that? Is that why you're asking that?
I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get you to retire to become like a rock DS miner.
I feels that way. They're trying to
Okay,
like
what
corner
was
us
your
into
question?
not
I'm sorry.
having any PvP. So do I think, yeah, I think that removing, like making it less restrictive, absolutely. Yeah. I think the only people who won't like, no, I think personally, I think most people are going to like it being less restrictive because this is what, and you probably agree, what we began to
Yes.
see was that people are like, yeah, I can't wait for master modes to come in because it's basically going to make all ace pilots not ace pilots, so make us better by not practicing, but better, right? And what they realized, what it ended up doing was it basically restricted them to a point where once we had a beat on them, they were kind of screwed. They weren't going anywhere, right? Especially when somebody has quantum interdiction going or whatever the hell. So yeah, I think that freedom is going to be a compliment to everybody's gameplay style because now people who don't want to be in a fight have a better chance of getting out of the situation also, especially with what I'm hearing from the quantum boost, right? The quantum boost does sound like it would be good for that. It gives people more opportunity to get out of the fight. So yeah. I mean, there was one of the good things about the previous flight model. Now I know I'm not an OG who comes from like the 312 or whatever the hell when the flight model was
I was
totally
gonna
different.
say, when he talked about Jonathan Winters, did you just like tear up a little bit? You're just like,
Oh,
I
shut up.
remember when I had to join like G42, I had to watch like 5 hours
No,
of his
you
videos
did
before I could
not.
like even like do anything. So
Does Jonathan Winters even do anything anymore? I haven't seen anything
No.
from him in a long time.
does
He just
does he talk about me?
does
That's
he
what
talk
Elder's
about
asking.
me? Did he ever plug Reefer's Pub? Oh,
Mhm.
all right. So anyway, but no,
Anyway,
I just,
sorry.
but
Derail.
yeah, I mean, that was one of the best things about the previous flight model was it wasn't super restrictive and like it was just a lot of fun. I used to play it nonstop because like I just wanted to be the best and it was a lot to
Yeah.
learn. You know what I mean? It was like small improvements. I could make.
2023, I remember playing more that year in the fall when it was like actually fun to play and I could actually get around. And when you guys were teaching me stuff, I felt like I was actually making progress. But now I'm going back to this and I feel like I'm getting that ceiling most of the time. There's still a lot that I need to learn. There's always room for improvement, but it's not as like apparent when you see the difference between like the old flight model and how you
No,
can
it's
make like a
not.
huge difference.
Yeah, I'm now
what
there
you're,
are
like,
still
doing.
there is still
Yeah.
like
There is.
people a lot better than others, but it's not through expression. It's
Mhm.
pretty honestly pretty straightforward. Also,
Like if I tried to like fight therapists right now, I would be, being rotated the entire time, or like you for that point. But
oh, maybe, yeah, who
yep,
knows, right?
just saying.
I mean, the
Just
therapist
saying.
was kind of kicking my ass before, so
He was, yeah. The wiggle.
by the way, do we have that SC tools thing?
Yeah, let's plug that in. It's just SC tool for the command. If you guys haven't checked this out, this is actually something that our friend Venman has been putting together. I don't know if it's actually working. I don't think it's working.
That's right. I'm gonna go take his link and drop it in
please
there.
do.
Sometimes it's lag though.
So if you guys haven't already seen it, SC Tools is a great resource to look up like, org information, leaderboards. You've probably seen it in a handful of Discords. In fact, I think most of the PvP Discords out there use this. If you guys go check out his Discord, and he's actually developing some really cool tools right now. We just want to show him some love. The kill tracker is going to be great. So if you guys haven't already checked out that Discord, make sure you click on that link. Go show some love.
All right, I just want to throw it out there. So check it out.
Yep.
The kill tracker is really cool, right? So basically, it's reading the console that you have in your game, and anytime you get the kill, it will record it. You know what I mean? So you know when you got the kill. But on top of that, it's also throwing out stuff if there's any deaths nearby, so you know what's happening. Like you know what's happening around you. It's really cool. So I'm 100%. I'm plugging it. I'm plugging it. You guys should go check it out. It's awesome. All right, that's it. I'm done.
With that being said, I want to say thank you everybody for joining us tonight. Elder, thanks for hanging out and spending some time doing a little bit of a reaction on that and just discussing all that. And just a reminder, tonight's episode will be on YouTube tomorrow. If you guys haven't already checked that out, you can follow that link right there. And make sure you check out the Discord too. Show us some love over there if you want to keep updated on future streams and stuff like that, or any kind of polls, discussions. That's the place to be.
He's thanking me for hanging out because I keep telling him no.
No. Yeah, this is the only time I see Elder. It's like on weekends.
We don't hang out otherwise. I hate him. No.
With that being said, do you guys have any recommendations for someone that we could go raid, preferably someone that's PvPing? If we have that, let's do that. Otherwise, we're going to go to a standby screen, and we will see you guys next week.
I think General Horsch is actually...
Horsch is on?
Oh, yeah, Phasmophobia, though. Saber Fox, RP... I don't know who Todd Fox is, but they're also doing Star Citizen. Walk Street. Oh, Walk Street is. Walk Street was in here.
Let's go over to Walks. Walks is
let's
good
hook
stuff.
Walks up.
Okay. Do you have his name already set up?
Yeah, I can do that. Oh, you got it already?
I got it. Yep.
Walk Street 2377.
If you guys would stick around, hang out with our friend Walks, and we will catch you guys next week.
Later.
World Civilian.
All right, have a good night, guys.
We got to come out with like some kind of like outro, right?
Wait, are we still on here?
Anything.
We do have an outro.
What? No,
we have an end screen.
No, we don't have like, you know how we have the hello and welcome. That's our intro. Like, what are we gonna do that's like Klesher related that we could say like, hey, goodbye or whatever? You know, like good luck in the world, civilian. Sounds like we're talking about weird stuff, right?
Okay, yeah. How about this? Have a good night, guys. Remember, all PvP is griefing. No good.
I'm just gonna raid out.
All right. Later, guys.